Welcome back to Life, Love, and Real Estate. I am your host, Daniel Palmer. Thank you for joining us. You found us. Don't you dare lose us. Subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, everywhere you get your podcasts for free 99. If you're watching us, thanks for finding us on YouTube at Life, Love, Real Estate on YouTube. Subscribe, share it with your friends. Make sure they get the knowledge that we're bringing to you every other week. As always, I'm here alongside, not going to start again, my much better pod half, LaCressa Morrow. How's it going, LaCressa?
Man, it's going. We are here, episode number 16. We made it. It's been a little longer of a hiatus than we originally expected, but life has been life, and so you got to call some audibles. You know that. Isn't that a football term? An audible?
That is a very much a football term. I was very proud when you said audible unprompted.
Thank you.
I'm not gonna lie, just a little
I like it.
tiny bloom. I was like, this podcast is changing at least one life. I've got LaCressa confidently dropping football terms. It's very exciting for me.
I love calling it audible.
But no, we are back. We've talked about a lot of things these last 15 episodes. And today we're going to kind of bring it back to the center, back to the reason we do all this. We're going to talk about the concept of home. Before we get into that, the financial and the emotional benefits of home, I want to talk to LaCressa kind of about our last couple of weeks because we haven't talked in a while. You've been out of town. I found myself out of town a bunch. So LaCressa, what's been going on?
So, life has been, I love to say that life has been lifing. And I think I've been trying not to project what's been happening to me on the people that I'm surrounded by, right? So when people ask you, how are things going? I'm like, things have just been going, like rolling with some serious punches, lots of emotions, lots of multiple emotions. My birthday's coming up, so that's probably a little bit of that as well. But I feel like life has just been really interesting in the past couple of weeks for everyone. Has that been for you? Like we've been lots of relationship stuff in every single way and form, like interpersonal relationships, friendships, intimate relationships with your family. Just a lot of that stuff has just been coming up in the last couple of weeks. So just been navigating through all of that. Everybody's going through something right now. So been showing up a lot for a lot of people, and luckily, and I'm blessed to have people who have been showing up for me as well, to have me have a safe space to land, because I always don't ask for that. So I've been stepping out of my box and asking for what I need. So big thanks. How about you?
You 100% couldn't agree more. I think it may just be the season of life that we're all in. But the same with you. It's been a lot of relationship focused things. It's been a lot of watching kind of things get picked up. And kind of, like you said, rolling with the punches. It's been less heavy punches and more just like a constant barrage of tiny punches for me. But it's been good. It's been a good opportunity to kind of put those things in place. Say, okay, this is what's really important. These are things that are going to be prioritized and things that have to get taken care of and people I have to see. And so it's been really good for me. 2 weeks ago, I went up to go to a wedding. And Susan and I got to go to a wedding of a really old friend of mine. Someone walked up to me and said, "How long have you known the groom?" And I had to stop and think. And I said with uncertainty in my voice, about 30 years.
Isn't that wonderful?
It was the wedding. It was fantastic. And even better, so the wedding was for, I used to work at a kids camp. If you've ever talked to me about business or life or like how I've gotten where I am, I'll always tell you the best job I ever had was a camp counselor. I used to live on a mountain for parts of the summer, and I used to make sure kids had a good time. I was a camper there first. I worked there in the kitchen in between years, and then I worked as a staff member for 5 years. We did the math, and it looks like I've spent a quarter of my summers at least a week on that mountain. And so to be at that wedding with like someone who's known me my whole life, and then I look around and it's staff and it's people who've worked on camp, people who used to work alongside me, and it's a group of people who've known me since I was 10 years old, and they still like me and they still appreciate me, and they watched me grow into the man I am. They got to meet my wife for the first time, and what was even weirder was that was 2 weeks ago, and then this past weekend we had our Camp Laney reunion. The camp's Camp Laney, on top of Lookout Mountain. It's a fantastic place to send your kids, send your son. If you have anyone's listening and wants to learn more about it, please ask me. Or if you have a college-age son who wants a good summer job to learn a lot about himself and be of service to kids, it's a great opportunity. But we were up there for our counselor reunion. We started doing this about 10 years ago, and it's counselors from the 60s through 2020s. And we go back on camp and we have a couple days where we just kind of hang out. We cook and we watch football and we drink and it's the reason I wanted to talk about home, because
I love
yes,
that.
home is the place you were raised. Home is who you were raised with. But to look around and see people who have known you for 30 years or who've never met you, but you share this one thing, that's experienced this place, it really kind of redefines what's home. Because as I was leaving Sunday morning, I talked to Rob Hammond, the owner. I was like, Rob, I know that, we kind of all have ownership of camp. We all kind of feel like we come home for this, but you guys live here. This is literally your home. So thank you for once again inviting us back into your home to share and kind of celebrate what Camp Laney's meant to all of us. And so for me, it's been a really, I'm coming off a very fulfilling weekend of seeing a lot of people who've known me a very long time, who I've known a long time. LaCressa, I had the oldest moment of my life on Friday night.
I love it. Okay, tell me all about it.
I'm in the dining hall. We've got dinners being eaten. Everyone's trickling in. And I sit down with some of the younger counselors, and I think this kid sits down to the right of me and says, Daniel, I said, don't say your name. And he said, why? I said, don't tell me your name, because if you tell me your name, this all becomes super real. And he said, why do you say that? I said, because your name is, and I told the kid his name. And I said, you were in my very first cabin as a counselor when I was 16 years old. This young man has been in the military. He is married. His wife is with child. And he said, do you want to feel worse? I said, sure. And he pointed down the other end of the table and said, that counselor was in my first cabin as a counselor. And it was one of those, I should probably leave. I'm clearly told to be here. But also it was one of those really because I'd never met that other guy, but we all shared this thing. We shared this love of camp, and we all made the opportunity, said, hey, on this weekend in October, we had kids flying in from Oregon. People flew in from across the country to be back on the mountain for this weekend, because it means so much to us, this shared experience. And so I did feel very old for a lot of the camp, but I got to feel young because some of my counselors were there. And I was like, you used to watch me when I was 10, and now look at us. We're peers. And it's very funny, but it is a place that's truly home to me. And I'm really glad I got to be a part of it this weekend.
I love that. I think, it's so interesting. We always think of home in a literal sense, right? Owning a home, renting a home, where you grew up, home. And as I've gotten older and continue to age, I find home can mean so many different things, right? It's not just a physical dwelling that you have. There are friends who feel like home. There are people that I've just met who feel like home, right? And then there are people that I've known for 10, 15 years that I feel like freaking strangers. It's a beautiful thing as you grow older and you start to view life in different ways, and you start to redefine things, or broaden the definition of things. I would say more so is not redefining, just broadening the definition. I was just in upstate New York this past week for the last 5 days. I just got back yesterday. Being in upstate New York, which sounds really strange from my black tail, feels like home to me, because my girls are up there and they have 40 acres of land and they have chickens. And I had a puppy that slept in my lap. She thinks that she's 2 pounds, but she's actually 50, and slept in my lap the whole weekend, and, and gave me little drive-by kisses. And I cooked for my girls, and we laid around and we did puzzles, and they are home to me. You talk about knowing someone for 30 years. It's coming up on 30 years that I've known Bonnie. I flew up there because we show up for friends, right? And showing up isn't convenient. Side note, check on your strong friends right now. Please check on your strong friends right now. Everyone's going through a lot of things right now. And we have a tendency to pour into that place that is always safe, right? We have that one friend or two friends that we pour into, in a sense that we are able to release all of the things that we're going through. And they become a vessel to so many people, pouring in so many things that are going on in their life, that people forget to check in on them and give them a space for that. So just side note, check in on your strong friends. But yeah, so I went up to state New York. My friend had a health scare. I needed to put some eyes on her. I needed to show up and cook dinner and lay around and do nothing. And we talked about home and family and what family is now. I have physical family, and then I have my tribe, who are my chosen family. So home feels like so many different things outside of this condo and four walls that I'm in.
What I love about, first of all, I'm glad your friend's doing better. What I love about talking about that with you is, and I told you this in private, so I feel comfortable telling you this in public. You live your raps. You say, I want to show up for my people. And you don't just say that and keep bebopping around and ignoring it. You say, oh, I'm going to show up for my people. And then you buy a plane ticket. And then you make your life move to make sure you're available to help your friends who need you. It's one of those things that it's a level of dependability and trust that I think reflects obviously on you personally, but professionally as well. Like even for me, my mom took her trip. She takes an annual trip to go visit my brother out in LA. My brother and his boyfriend got a new place. And so she gets to see the new place, and it's very cute and very funny because she goes a week every year. But every year they do the same things. They go to the same museums. They go to the same restaurants because it's her vacation. She's like, these are things I like. We're going to do these things, that. But my dad's here alone and he's home alone. And so as I'm going up the mountain Friday, I swing by the house. I bring him lunch. We talk for a while. Do you remember Marco's Pita?
Yeah, of course.
Random question. Okay, so Marco is a family friend, and he comes over and cuts my dad's hair every 2-3 weeks. Yeah, we've been close for years. So he comes over and cuts my dad's hair every 2-3 weeks. So I go over there to drop lunch off for my dad. Marco's there. Marco was known me since I was 6 years old.
Aww.
And so we hadn't really seen each other in probably 5 or 6 years. He's like, it is crazy seeing you. We talked about our kids. He's got a daughter at Woodward. It was really cool and really nice to reconnect. And then I leave town. And of course, my dad's had his health issues. And so the next day, Matthew and Susan went over there because Susan knew, one, Matthew would love seeing his pawpaw. My dad would love seeing him, but also she knew it would bring me peace for her to put eyes on him too. And so when I say it, right, it really is. And so for when I say home, it is not just, like you say, people or location. It is that feeling you get. It is that certainty, that comfort, that's undeniable thing, the thing that is so, if you need to explain, no words would suffice, but if you understand it, no words are needed. It is that. And so to have that in other people, to have that kind of trust and faith, and it's honestly, I'm so glad we're talking about this because our jobs are jobs. They are tools of a capitalist society to achieve certain material goals. But at the same time, there are larger non-tangible benefits to everything that we do. I was talking just kind of, it is very interesting to talk to guys who were Camp Laney counselors and how we all view our businesses. Like we all do different things. Guys are pharmacists and teachers, and we all have all these different lives across guys in the military. But if you talk to any one of us about our jobs, it comes down to what we do for other people. Yeah. It is truly, and I don't know if that's what the kind of guys Laney attracts or kind of guys it produces, but it's a very service first mentality. Mm-hmm. I was talking to Daryl.
Yeah, there's not a lot of many people who are service first.
I'm actually going to send this to Heavy.
There are so many people who are not.
Okay, so this is wild. So I want to tell you this story.
There are many people that you love and that you 100%. Are around.
So Daryl was a teacher for years.
Things go down, and then you realize, oh, you're not a service first person, right? Like you're so cool. I still rock with you. At the same time, you are not that person that I'm going to call or assume is going to show up the next time because now I've seen you in action when it comes to, are you service first or are you service when it's convenient, when I'm not tired, when I have enough money, when I have enough time? Because service first people just show up. Mm-hmm. It's just what we do. Yeah. Interesting.
I was on the porch Saturday talking to a counselor who his first year on staff was my first year at camp. And then later on we became coworkers and all that fun stuff. But he is an outdoorsman, works on the ropes courses, does a lot of climbing. but he also was a teacher when he wasn't at camp. And so I was like, so Daryl, how's everything been going? And he said, well, honestly, I got burned out on teaching middle school about 5 years ago. And I just, kind of walked away from it, did a lot of camping and stuff. And he said he came back in education about 2 years ago, but now he's teaching people 16 to 26 who've opted to get their GEDs. And to hear him talk about the light that goes off. Because he said, when you're teaching middle school, like, yes, you get the occasional back and be like, oh, you changed my life. But mostly it's 1,000 kids who are legally obligated to be there. But with
and
the
hormonal
GED continuing
and
programs, it is people who've made this decision, who've opted into this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Look, that's without going into the other teenage stuff. But he was talking about his current audience and the people he's teaching now. He said that each time he gets these stories from people, because there's a reason you didn't finish high school. There's a reason you're back to get your GED. And knowing those stories and seeing that, he says each class graduation means more. And each one is not like one or two people come back. It's every week. I get a new student coming back saying how much this helped and changed him. And so just talking to him about that, I was like, wow, that is so affirming. It reminds me the best parts of my job. I love closing loans. I love helping people save money. But when I get someone who says, I could never own a home, and then 2 weeks, 6 weeks, 12 weeks later, you're watching keys get put in their hands, that's a transformative moment that supersedes the other materialistic benefits of this job. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. It is. We get the bonus of being paid to help people change their lives. It's such a beautiful and rewarding thing to watch people gain their confidence through the process, and then you see it more than anyone, right? Because numbers are a very intimidating factor. Credit scores and finances are just scary, and especially to open yourself up to a stranger to review your financial life. It takes a lot of courage. And then for someone like for what your friend is doing to decide to go back to school is one of the most courageous things that you could do, right? No matter what age you are, you have to let go of so many should-haves and could-haves and all of those things to say that this is where I am right now. And this is how I want to redirect my life. And this one thing can be a catalyst to not only help me to redefine myself, but also to be a jumpstart to this next phase in my life, whether I'm 17 and had to drop out for whatever reason, or whether I'm 35 or 50 and was just like, this is the one goal that I'm going to take. And then for him to see all of those beautiful light bulb moments as they're getting it, how freaking rewarding is that? That is a beautiful thing to go to every single day. Good for him. That's wonderful.
We did they interviewed a bunch of older counselors, and kind of they were trying to put together a sizzle reel to try to attract new counselors, and they asked questions, and I did part of one of the interviews, and one of the questions was, what was the and it's a running joke with us because people always say, oh, when are you going to stop being a camp counselor and get a real job? And it's a very funny question, because at that job, I got to watch kids go from begging not to be dropped off at the beginning of a session, not wanting to leave mom and dad. I always work with kids because I found that the older kids were needed to learn through physicality, and I was willing to give it to them. And I was like, I probably shouldn't be living with those kids because I will hit them. So the little kids, I was always like, this is my group. These are my guys. But I'd get the kids who were like, I don't want to be away from mommy. And then 2 weeks later, they're asking if they can stay 2 more weeks. And so watching that immediate transformation, getting that immediate feedback, it is an endorphin hit. You can't really, the joke that we have is that during staff training, when people ask you that, what do you tell them? I change kids' lives. Doesn't get much more real job than that. And it's a joke and it's a cliche, but it's also super true. And we get to kind of do that for their parents and adults now. I was in Ingalls. Shout out to Annie. She knows the Ingalls near our house. I was in Ingalls last Tuesday buying food for dinner because I cook dinner on Tuesdays. And I had Matthew with me call while I'm pushing my buggy because I'm a Southerner. And I took the client call, helped the young lady out, and I feel a tap on my back, and it's one of the store clerks. Hey, what do you do for a living? I said, I help people, get into homes. Kind of just 30,000 foot view. He says, would you give my mom a call? I said, hey man, I don't have anything to write down on. Give her my card. 3 days later, I'm packing up to end my day. I'm so unprepared, LaCressa, that my cell phone has died at like 4:45, and I've got it on the charger next to my computer, trying to wrap up my day. And a phone rings, and the number comes through, and I don't recognize it. I answer it on my little headphones, and it's his mom. And she's telling me about her life. She's like, oh, he just wants to help. He's just a really soft. She said, it's so weird. He never goes up to strangers and is willing to talk to them. I said, well, I guess I just got kind of presence, and we laughed about that. And she was like, well, I don't know why he bothered you. I could never buy a house. I said, well, why not? And we stayed on the phone for 35 minutes, going through her story, figuring out solutions. And I told her at the end of the call, I said, look, I'm not going to promise you a magic wand. I'm not going to promise you an immediate solution. What I can promise you is you'll be treated fairly at all times. And then if you let me work with you, we'll do everything we can to make this happen for you. And then this morning, she started her application. And so when I say home, when I say home buying, when I say home building, it is that moment, that transformative process where we get to see something in people they may not see in themselves.
I love that.
We get to say, hey, I could never buy a house. Well, do you pay your rent? Of course you're going to rent. Okay, cool. First stop. You make your financial obligations every month. That's a great start. Now let's talk about making that obligation work for you and not for someone else. And it's kind of those, like you said, light bulb, building block type moments that take me back to summers on Camp Laney. When you got a kid who's at the top of the rope swing and says, I climbed up here and I'm too scared and I want to go down. Full dates. I was a kid who hated the high elements, rope course, all that stuff, terrifies me to this day. But I had counselors, like the gentleman I talked about on the porch, who were up there with me, who said, hey, look at all the kids who've gone before you. We've tested all this stuff. We will not let anything bad happen to you. Do you believe that? And you've got to either believe or don't.
It's also really beautiful.
It is those small
walk while fearful. Right? Like, I'm scared. I'm still climbing up this ladder. I'm scared. Mm-hmm. I'm still at the top of this ridge.
Yeah.
I'm scared, but I'm still going to do it, especially when you have people there to encourage you, right? Because a lot of times we get scared and we stop in our tracks. The beauty of home and surrounding yourself by people who love you and support you, and love and support you enough to want to push you further than your own idea of your capabilities is, I'm going to walk in fear, but I'm still walking because there's some support behind me. I have home behind me to say, I still got you. I know you're scared. I know you're fearful. That's fine. Still go forward because I got you. That is a beautiful thing. That is really beautiful. Yay, camp.
There was a book I used to read to my campers at I used to read at night to help them go to sleep and stuff. And you're going to go through it. It's your choice whether you're going to walk or you're going to run. And so it's like, hey, look, being afraid's fine, but letting that fear keep you from walking through a door, like we're all going to be scared, but you've all got to walk. And it's so small and it's so little, and it's stuff you say to a kid before nighttime, but it's also stuff that 40-year-old Daniel, it still resonates in the day. Being back on camp and being back in those cabins and reminiscing about those things, it takes you back to that place of, oh yeah, this is why we do this, because it's not just a 2 weeks to get your parents a break and to have you be on a mountain and get some fresh air and get away from your phone. It's also a real opportunity for some accelerated growth. I'm still the youngest counselor in Camp Laney history. I was 16 my first year as a counselor on staff. Right. And just being in charge and being responsible for like 14 little lives, having to remember 14 names on the first day. Like, hey, that's training. Where do they sleep? Okay, these are the kids. I got to make sure. All right, this kid's got to, all right, where's he from? I know that stuff. And so it's the little skills you pick up along the way. One of the things they asked us was, what has camp taught you that you use today? And I may have talked for 10 minutes because I use so many of the skills I learned operating with kids. LaCressa, this is what I'm going to tell it to you, and then let you talk some more because I'm just rambling today.
I love it.
Don't pick up the emotional rope is one of the big things with kids. Don't pick up the emotional rope. If a kid comes to you and is upset and screaming, if you start screaming back, now you're in a screaming match. But if you refuse to pick up that emotional rope, then it kind of powers them down. And if I get on a phone call and someone's furious with me and they are and I don't match that energy, it's amazing how much they'll come down to me because they don't want to be the only person screaming. But if you say, oh, you're screaming, I'm going to scream. This is great interpersonally, business-wise. It's just, hey, don't let their emotional turmoil define how you're going to interact with them in the situation.
I think that that's beautiful. I had to learn that skill because I could be a petty bitch. Just say it. And sometimes I'm just going to win some things. In my head, I have to win. And I remember when I used to work with the beloved David Tufts, who is a broker extraordinaire here in Atlanta, who taught me so many wonderful things when I worked with him for 12 years about new construction development, working with developers and stuff. So I used to have folks come into the office when we had an office in Midtown when we were the marketing directors. And David's desk, my broker's desk, was literally right next to where I did my sales presentations. And I was selling by product boards, product information and renderings. And sometimes people would come in a little sassy. And then I would meet them with my same sassy. And it would just be like, oh, you're going to give it? I can give it to you. And then afterwards, David was like, sweetie, come over here for a second. Like, this is not what we do. Like, you're supposed to be controlling the situation and calming the situation and all of those things and not matching petty with petty. But I could be the pettiest of petty. I have learned to control that. I have learned that I can't match that type of energy because it takes me out of my own character. But sometimes I do want to match that energy and just let you know you're not going to win. That's only like 10% of the time. 90% of the time I keep it under control. But yeah, I love that saying. Also, I had to learn that because I honestly sometimes really enjoy being petty. And I want to win sometimes. I'm not that much of a winner, but sometimes I'm like, damn it, I'm going to win this one. I don't care.
There's a reason it was part of our staff training because it is something you do have to learn. And it's easier to learn it when you're a 17-year-old dealing with a 6-year-old, where it's like, hey, you are clear. There's a clear power dynamic here. Don't abdicate your power by arguing with a child. But it's the same lesson. Like it took me a while to like, oh, that wasn't just a camp lesson. That was a life lesson. That was
and now you have a kid, lesson. Right?
But it was so cool to learn that at that age.
It's going to play so well with Matthew. I love seeing grown people argue with like toddlers. That stuff cracks me up. I'm like, who's going to win? Who's going to win?
Susan makes fun of me because she's like, "Are you using camp counselor stuff for me right now?" I'm like, sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not. You'll never know. But like, there are times that just like, hey, look, I'm going to lean back on my training. Shout out to Chris Thurber, and we're going to figure this thing out together as a team because we want the same situation. When I'm even with Matthew arguing with the toddler, Matthew, you want to read a book? No. Okay, which book do you want to read? Now I've given him the illusion of having a choice, but still limited his options to one of two books. If I say go pick a book off the bookshelf, we'll be here for 30 minutes. But if I say, hey man, which one of these two do you want to read? He's gonna point.
Oh, my brother-in-law and my sister are the best example of that. My sister was like, she's really fussy and she likes to fuss and she likes to argue. And she would get so mad when they first got married, so mad because he would not argue with her. Like, to the point that she was probably in tears. She's going to be so mad I'm talking about this. But anyway, to the point that she would be like in tears, so freaking frustrated, right? But he would not, like, refuse to argue with her. And he'll be like, I'll talk to you in an hour. I'm going to go out. I'm going to go run an errand. I'm going to do whatever. When you calm down and when you are ready to have a rational conversation, we can talk. Until then, you're going to have to stew in this all by yourself. And she would just be just so angry. And now it's beautiful. And it took her a while to like learn how to calm herself down, emotionally regulate herself before you can have these big conversations, right? But she would just stew and stew and stew. And he was just like, you
But
can't argue. You can only argue if I participate.
that gets back to
If I
our
don't
main
participate, then there's no argument. You
that
know,
gets back to our main topic of what is home. Because until she felt safe enough to say, okay, I can alter my communication strategy. I need to until she felt safe, until she felt like home, she had that wall up. With I make fun of Susan because she will fall asleep immediately after the baby is put down but she found some article. It's like, when you're with the people you're most comfortable with, you just want to fall asleep. I'm like, did you write this article to manipulate me? Like, are you trying to, like, I feel like this is the article where it's like, don't take down spider webs, written by a spider. Like, it felt like, I'm like, you feel like you cherry picked this bad boy. So we'll see what's really true. But it is that same sense of belonging, of comfort, of, like we said, home, where there's no fear of rejection. There is no fear of reprisals. There's an acknowledgement of working towards a similar goal. And I think that's where the most growth is allowed, because, again, would I have felt 1,000% comfortable going at Camp Laney with my mom out of town if Susan didn't have a great relationship with my dad? If my son I didn't know my son wanted to see his grandfather? If I didn't know they were going to pop by there on Saturday, I probably would have still been okay going, but it would have been something in the back of my head. And to just get like the updates and the pictures and like, here's what they talked about. Like, it is not just for me, but also her knowledge of me, knowing that if that didn't happen, it would affect me in a negative way. And that, again, it's people knowing you, it's knowing yourself, and having that anchor allows you to do more things. And that's why I say homeownership is not the end of anything. It's the beginning of something, because once you have a home base, we can talk about the next thing. You want to get in real estate investing? Congratulations. You've already begun, because you own your home. You're investing in yourself. Now you're going to learn and grow and educate yourself on how to invest in yourself in other facets. Do you turn this home into a rental? You take the equity and put it down and say, we're going to reinvest this somewhere. Do you take bonus income and say, hey, I'm going to turn this 30-year mortgage into a 17-year mortgage? It's all the different kind of ways and options and ability to leverage what you've put into the proverbial piggy bank to allow it to grow, whether that be emotionally, financially, or in some people's cases, both.
Yeah. For me, I would say it starts with just finding your place, finding your home, in a sense of finding that place of security and safety, right? From there, we can navigate whatever that means for you and what the bonuses are from that. For me, always, it just comes back to a safe space for you to unwind and rest and create memories and host and entertain and cry and all the things that we need to do as humans. But most importantly, that you just have a safe place that's yours. And then once we get you that, then we can figure out the other bonuses of your life. Let's just get you that first. Let's get you a home. Yeah. Let's get you a safe place. And then the sky's the limit.
I feel bad for our listeners because this has turned into story time with Daniel. But I do have one final home story that I want to share that happened this weekend. The check's in the mail, LaCressa. I was at camp, and I got up Saturday morning before everyone else because I am 40 and have a toddler, and I can't sleep in. I slept in until 7 o'clock, which I thought was pretty good.
What? 7?
But I got up. I know, right? I got up and I walked from the front of camp to the main road. It's about a mile walk. And I just went out there and walked and just kind of watched the sun come up and really enjoyed it. And as I'm walking back, I'm in Central Time, so it's like 7:30 Central Time. My phone rings, and it's one of my clients. And she's been through pre-underwriting, so she felt very confident going out and seeing houses. And she'd been looking on and off, talking to her agent for about 5 years. But this is this most recent time she's gotten really serious about it. She calls me at 8:30 in the morning her time, and she hangs up immediately. Because I think she got like self-conscious or nervous, like, oh, I'm bugging you on the Saturday. Oh, it's 8:30. But I called her back. I said, hey, what's going on? She said, I didn't want to bother you. I said, if it was a bother, I wouldn't have called you back. How can I help? And she started talking about the place that she's putting an offer. Her offer had gotten accepted. She just
how
talked for 10 minutes about this house, about this condo. And she's like, Daniel, I feel so silly because it's 2 blocks away from where I currently live, or 2 miles away from where I currently live, but it feels just like home. It feels like home. And the offer got accepted, and we're doing all this stuff on the back end right now. We're going to close the beginning of next month. But to hear her say that to me, and for her to have so much energy and excitement that she couldn't contain it until past noon on a Saturday, it just really reminds me why we do this. And like people came like, are you working on the weekend? I'm like, man, I just had someone, I could hear the smile on her face. I could hear her grinning cheek to cheek about this condo, about her new home. And so that's taking kind of everything we've talked about. That kind of encapsulates what we do. People say, well, what do you do? I was like, I work in mortgages, which is so reductive, and I shouldn't limit myself by saying that. But what I do is I help people. I know. I just, we all have our own crosses to bear. Mine is self-loathing. And but at the core, I help people find home. I help people find security and comfort and the thing that's going to make them feel comfortable taking their next step, whatever that may be in their lives. And so I think that it's really cool that we got on here today and talked about not just the concept of home and acquiring homes. And this podcast is called Life, Love, and Real Estate. And every week we get more evidence on how all 3 of these are connected. And it's amazing how much you can love your life and your real estate if you allow yourself to.
Mm-hmm. We do beautiful things.
Yes, we do. LaCressa, thank you for your time. Tell everyone where they can find you when they want to help find their own next home here in the Atlanta, Georgia area.
So I'm in Atlanta. Surprise, surprise, at Keller Williams in town, Atlanta. Once again, Atlanta. LAC sells ATL. I'm online. I'm on Facebook. You can Google me. You'll find my number. It's not a secret. Call me if you need to pick my brain, if you want to buy a home and invest in a home, if you want to get into real estate development, if you want me to sell one of your developments, I'm available. I am free. Not easy. Actually, not that free, but also I'm available. So just tell me.
All right, she ruined my outro. That was really good. At Daniel Palmer, find me on the internet at Daniel Palmer Mortgages. I'm on all the socials there. You can go to danielpalmermortgages.com right now to start your new home journey. If you already own your home, congratulations. Let's talk about how to utilize that equity to better your life. You can follow this podcast at Life, Love, and Real Estate. We're on Spotify. We're on iTunes. We're on everywhere you get your finest podcasts for free $99. Because I've been plugging this one over there, I'm going to go ahead and cross-plug over here. I also run a podcast network called the MTR Network. We have 2 sports podcasts that come out a week under UD Pod. You can follow that on YouTube at UD Pod 66. If you think that I am somewhat charming, congratulations. I've tricked you. Now come listen to me yell about sports. That was it for this week. We're going to be back very shortly to talk more about life, love, and real estate. You guys have a fantastic rest of your week.
Bye-bye. Have a fantastic week.